Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast, presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the MitsuTimes podcast. My guest today, very special guest, Mr. Tony Zerka. He is the owner and driver of a very cool, very unique Evo. How are you today, sir?
Not bad. Yourself?
I am great. It's an absolute honor to have you on. The car is certainly a masterpiece, amazing machine. You can tell just by looking at it that you have a very good attention to detail and a very high level of craftsmanship.
I appreciate that. Been a lot of hands involved to make it get it to that point.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. It's definitely, it looks like one of those cars where a lot of great minds came together to get it to where it is.
That's definitely true. I mean, the majority of the ideas were mine, but there's a lot of stuff along the way. Like there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it's been in progress for so long.
So, Tony, let's start off by getting to know you a little bit. What got you into racing, and how did you end up doing this time attack circuit racing style racing over all the other disciplines that are out there?
Well, I mean, I'm old. I used to do just fun drag racing stuff when I was younger. A little bit of street racing and stuff. I grew up in rural Pennsylvania, and everybody had old V8 stuff there, so that's all I really was involved in till much later in my career. Like I got involved with imports, Mitsus specifically, in my dealership days. Prescott, Arizona is a couple hours north of Phoenix, where we lived for almost 10 years when we first moved to this area. There was a guy that had a 1G that was pretty heavily modified, and he had some money, and he bought a 2G and wanted someone to transfer all the parts onto his 2G from this 1G. And this is a dealership. This is a Chrysler Jeep Eagle dealership, and nobody wanted to touch anything aftermarket. And I'm like, I don't care. You pay my hourly rate. I'll clean the bathrooms, whatever. I didn't care. So I literally, it was my first experience with Mitsu stuff, was swapping a bunch of bolt-on stuff from a 1G to a 2G, and learning a lot of stuff along the way that I didn't know anything about.
That was certainly a learning experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, you figure this is like 1996 that this went down. There wasn't a lot of turbo cars out there. I had zero turbo car experience. And, you look at a wastegate actuator and you're like, oh, yeah, it works with vacuum, right? So you put the boost hose to the top, right? Yeah, that's not how that works, right? So that thing made a whole lot of boost for a really short period of time. And luckily it didn't break anything. We're like, why is it making so much boost? And then, a light bulb clicked in my head like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it was pretty silly. I mean, I was really young. I was fresh out of the military, pretty young. First real professional level mechanic job at a dealership. I'd been there a year and a half at that point or something. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. But then you get to figure the car out and you drive and you're like, holy hell, my Trans Am has double the motor and is way slower than this thing. What the hell?
Eye-opening.
So I mean that was the beginning of getting involved with. Actually, I guess I'm skirting the question. That's how I got involved with the Mitsus, but like the motorsports thing, like I always did, like I said, Friday night drags, just little fun stuff, nothing really fast. I had, while I was working at that same dealership, I had an old man leave a note on my windshield. So this is 1996 or 7. There was no internet, Facebook groups, and all this crap going on. This old man just left this note on my windshield. It was like, hey, I have a car just like yours. You ever thought about racing it? And that's his phone number. And I called the guy. This guy was like a real estate guy local out of town. This is a small town in northern Arizona. And I called him up. He's like, well, no, I haven't. But I mean, I've never raced a thing, but I'd love to. So he's like, well, I'm going down to Phoenix International Raceway on Saturday. If you want to join me, I'll pick you up at your house at like 4:30. I'm like, 4:30? Like, okay, sure, why not? So, just like blindly met this guy over the phone once, and I jump in his car and driving 2 hours south to a racetrack in Phoenix area, in like Western Phoenix, and went down there. And this guy had a 79 Trans Am, and so did he. And he paid for me to drive his car on the racetrack, like sight unseen, the day I met him, and I was absolutely hooked at that point. I was hooked, but I wasn't financially able to sustain the level of hooked I was.
Yep,
to
been
say
there.
the least, because that's an expensive hobby. But I did a couple of track events, and then didn't go for a long time. I did a little bit of autocrossing for a while because it was way more affordable. And later on, I probably did like 3 events in that Trans Am, and I did 2 seasons of autocross. And then I took like a pretty long break while we moved to Phoenix. So we moved to Phoenix in like 2002, and that's about the time I got involved with my car. My car was owned by a guy I met. I actually got brought in to tune that car. So that was like one of the first. I think it was supposed to be like the second Evo in the state at the time in 2003. And this guy that bought it had money, and he immediately straight piped it and sent it over to one of the local shops and had a standalone done put into it. And they couldn't figure out how to make it all work because standalones was pretty new for that market at the time. Like top level motorsports guys had that stuff, high end stuff, but he ended up with like one of the, I think it was serial number like 14 of the Evo plug and plays from AEM. It was like brand new. And they put that thing in, and they put like a CDI box in and tried to run it on the factory coils, which obviously doesn't work because it's a smart coil. They smoked a couple of coils, and they couldn't figure out what's going on. Then he pulled it from there and took it somewhere else, took it over to another shop who was started by a guy that was a customer at the places I was working at. I was working at a Porsche uh, motorsports level shop that did like engine dynos and build wiring harnesses and standalone stuff. And somehow he found out that I'd been doing AEM stuff with another customer car, and a friend's car, not a customer car. We had serial number 1 in the Celica All Track. My buddy's Brian Wilson from Center Force. He had a Celica All Track, and he got serial number 1, the very first plug and play for a Celica All Track / Turbo MR2, And somehow he heard of that and brought me in to tune that car. So I got involved with that car. The car had 3,000 miles on it, already had a new clutch. The clutch has already been smoked in it and had a standalone, and it barely ran. So I was like, both feet into this car, like right off the bat, and it was a brand new car, and I just beating the snot out of it. It was a lot of fun. The car was really cool. I was like blown away with how good the Evos were because, all we had was DSMs up to that point, and Evos that when they flipped the head around, things changed. They got a lot better on pump gas anyway, specifically. But yeah, so that's how I got involved with the Evo, and then that ended up becoming my car. And I immediately started tracking. Now I was back in a position. I had my own shop, and I was doing all right, and I was able to go racing again. So that's when I started doing local NASA stuff. And it just so happened that the local NASA, well, it wasn't even NASA yet. It was Club Racing Arizona. It was before the NASA region started back up here. And there was a guy, the guy that became the regional director that started NASA and bought that group was Tage Evenson, who's got. I don't know if you ever heard of Casper. It's a little Civic that he's been racing forever and a day. He's a really fast driver, and the car's been around forever. But him and a couple other guys started a time attack series that basically was a really grassroots, simple little thing. You pay him $20, you get a free transponder rental, and you get to do an outlap, 2 hots and back in. And then we split up the pot. We had 3 classes. And we split up the pot and paid it back out at the end of the day. So it was kind of fun. So the way they were doing it at the time is like it was only maybe a couple years old, and they'd bring in a shop to be a sponsor for the series, and like the first 2 or 3 shops that were involved promptly went out of business shortly thereafter. And then just got handed, yeah, they got handed to another shop, and then they went out of business. They handed it to another shop, and they went out of business, and then they handed it to me. And fortunately, knock on wood, I haven't went out of business yet. So it kind of became my baby. The UMS Tuning Time Attack series started then. This is like 2006, I believe, maybe '07. And so we've been doing that. I think it's actually the longest continuously running time attack series in the country, I believe. But that was my initial entry into time attack, and that was our own little series, and we had a lot of fun. I don't know if you know the Snail Performance. Those guys, big Subaru guys that used to be around this area. Those guys and I would always have this great rivalry. We'd have a great time together, race against each other. It was just a lot of fun, and it really just gets the hooks in you doing that stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Sure. And there's really nothing better than a good Mitsubishi versus Subaru battle.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and there's so much ammo for smack talking too. It's great.
So Tony, thinking back, can you remember your first track day with this Evo? How did that
You
go?
know, I saw that in your notes for the questions you're going to ask, and I honestly could not remember. I think it was Firebird West, and somehow it happened because this guy, what was his name, Mike? I'll think of his last name. He worked at Bondurant, and he also did some like magazine articles and stuff, and he would like drive people's cars and evaluate them. I think that was one of my first track days in that car, and he drove it to kind of do an article on it, and he absolutely hated it because when I got the car, it had like a T67P trim with in a T3 open manifold. It was a 2.3 stroker. God, well, it had like HKS 280s in it, I think, and it was just laggy as hell. It was laggy. It made good power. I think back then, I think I was doing 670 wheel out of that car, and that's what the guy was. The guy that owned it previous to me was into drag racing. You know, I want to say it had a 950 cage or something, or maybe it was an 850 cage that got certified and everything. Car never went that fast. The fastest it ever went was I think a 1090 or something, or maybe a low 11. It was always, the guy wanted all the boost off the line, and I knew how to give it to him. I didn't know it was going to happen, and it would spit transfer case parts out of it every time he tried to launch it. And instead of dialing it down, he tried to buy a better transfer case and they'd just do it again, and instead of turning it down. So then he finally got tired of breaking parts and got rid of it. Essentially, he got it repoed, but it was a whole nother story. And that's how I ended up with it. But the car was built around drag racing, so it had a big laggy turbo, had a nitrous kit, had a drag race cage in it, still had power windows and AC, keyless entry, all that shit was still working. And then I started tracking it and realized how terrible it was on a road course. It had it had I want to say, oh yeah, it had um just had lowering springs and a rear sway bar, stock shocks. Like literally, that was it. It had, I think I put brake pads on it for the first event because I knew that was going to be a problem. So it was like 600 horsepower car that it really isn't set up to turn very much.
Or
And
stop?
so that, yeah, or stop or doing. Well, I mean, factory Evo brakes are pretty darn good in general. Until you start getting really spicy with them on power. But yeah, and that's where it started. And he wrote the article about how terrible it was, how laggy it was. It's too soft, and he just complained about all the things. But at the end of the day, I was like, I had a blast. I'm driving this thing. I'm like, all right, I want to make this better, but I'm still having fun. I don't care. So like that, at that point, I literally went on this mission. I went backwards. Like, so it had a TC7P trim. So I put a 3071 on it, and it's like a little bit better. And I'm like, still laggy as hell. So I put stock cams back in it. Like, all right, that's a little bit better. No, and I'm like, okay, well, that's tolerable. I was still able to make 500 wheel or so. Maybe no, it was like 400 wheel. I think I was making on a old school cast 3071. That's probably making something like 430 or something like that. And then the modified tuner shootout stuff happened the very first year. I think was like '08. I think
Sounds about right.
Jeff Racer from Full Race, he's local to me, and he showed up with his R14, which is like an S14 with R32 parts under it. And he's a talkative dude. He's very, very friendly, very talkative guy. And he started chatting to me about like twin scroll, the benefits of twin scroll. I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's cool. It's just like, I don't have $5,000 for a turbo. Listen, man, you put this on your car, it'll blow your mind. I'll give you the kit. Just put it on. And let me know what you think. So he gives me a 35R and his small runner twin scroll manifold. And here, put this on. Let me know how you like it. And I put this thing on, and this goddamn car spools, good lord, at least 1,500 RPM earlier,
Wow, that's a big.
and makes them, yeah, and it makes another 100 horsepower on the same boost level. I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing. Now the car drives. I'm like, okay, now I'm putting bigger and bigger cams in it, and it's not affecting spool. I'm just picking up more power up top. I'm like, holy hell, this is great. So I've been massively sold on twin scroll ever since. Like I hate V band. I hate open volute T3 T4. That's terrible. Like V band has its place, but it's not great. Like for what I do, it's fine for drag racing. It's totally fine for that. Or if you're roll racing, any of that stuff. But when you really need recovery and response and transient stuff, it can't hold a candle to twin scroll. Like not even close.
Yeah, yeah, and we hear that a lot when we talk to the circuit drivers. Is that even the stock manifold with a good upgraded bolt-on turbo, as long as you stay with the twin scroll, it really keeps the Evo really competitive.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah, I was like, we used to sell FPs a lot back in the day to people for that reason. I mean, the early stuff didn't live very long on road race cars. There's too much heat to put into them. But when they went that open volute, that fake twin scroll housing, like it changed so much. Like on a dynograph, it's not that obvious, but you would drive the car and you make a shift and stick your foot back into it. So you drop out a boost and stick your foot back into it, and you're waiting for that boost to come back on. It doesn't work that way on a twin scroll car. It recovers so much faster.
so, Tony, walk us through the current setup. What do you got going on under the hood and even under the body?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things going on. I'll start with the engine stuff. I've been doing this engine program for a while. I got in a couple different customer cars, and I had it on my car. Like my car's been down for so damn long. I parked it May of 17, and I just got it going the beginning of this year. So it's been down for forever to do all these crazy updates that I did. So right now, the bottom end is a Brian Crower 94 mil crank. I've got Signs 162 mil rods. Um, Custom pistons from IRP, Italian Rods and Pistons. They built me some custom pistons to go with this setup. It's a 4G64 block, sleeved down to an 85 mil bore, like a stock Evo 8 bore. I like trying to get as much area for the head gasket to do work. I know big bore's going to make more power, but it's always a battle on an 87 mil bore to keep the head gasket sealed up when you start to make some powers. I just leave that thing down to 85 mil. I can run more boost and make up for the displacement difference usually. I've got it's running. Let's see, moving upward. Right now I'm on just a copper O-ring and an OEM 9 head gasket. It's an Evo 9 head with GSC S3s. I make my own modified Myvec cam gears that'll go up to 50-degree advance. Although with these cams and this piston setup, I can only go to about 40. So I lock it out around 40. GSC beehive valve springs. The regular 3G lifters, nothing weird there. I'm using Magnus's 36 and 36 minus 2 crank trigger. I've got Evo Dan's Cherry cam sensor setup. Intake manifold is like a kind of a one-off thing. It's a set of Gen V ITBs with a one-off dual plenum intake with it on it with dual injectors. So the primary injectors on a stock location. The secondaries are in the back of the plenum spraying at the throttles. So they're like 10 inches away from the throttle plate or so. So I got I've got 1700cc or no 1300cc primaries and 1700cc secondaries. Yeah, I got way too much fuel. Like, I don't. I think I just had it on a dyno last weekend, trying to lean on it. Like I actually been running the thing with a full half-ass tune because I didn't have time to finish it off. I got committed to do this event at the beginning of the year, and like I don't even know. Last summer, I had it on a dyno, just starting to figure stuff out. I got a lot of new stuff on the car, and I kept having problems with my alternator huck and belts. And so like I stopped. I barely got I got all the wide open throttle stuff done, but nothing else. I just kind of just started doing the part throttle stuff, and I hucked the belt off. And I'm like, oh, screw it, I'll figure it out later. And the later never came because we got busy trying to finish the car off to make this event. And I've literally been driving on that. I've just been like taking logs at the track and fixing stuff here and there. And I finally got to put it on a dyno and get all the part throttle stuff done on Saturday last weekend. It was pretty awesome. But, I think I was like I leaned on it. I did a hit 36 psi, keeping to 42. It made 905 and like 620 foot-pounds of torque or something like that. And it was like I want to say I was like at 80% injected duty on the secondaries and like 50 on the primaries. I favored the secondaries because I figured that longer fuel path gives more chance to cool the air charge. Because it's further away from the throttle plate. So I favor that first in power, and then once that thing gets tapped out, the second primaries actually come in to fill in the rest. But I mean, I've got enough. I probably have enough fuel system there for another 200 horsepower, which would be a hair more than what the turbo can make anyway. So it's fine. But anyway, so to make the fuel systems. So I got those dual injectors, Magnus fuel rails. I've got Turbo Smart fuel pressure regulator and blow off valve, waste gates. The manifold is it's one off done by Walker Morgan. MP Fab and out of Birmingham. He's a good buddy of mine. The guy's a magician, man. He's one of the most amazing Fab guys I've ever dealt with. But he's an old time friend, and he flew out here, spent a week here hanging out with me, and built me a manifold. And it's using the Hypertune material. It kind of falls in between the 1.25 and the 1.5 stuff, which I know there's people that are kind of contradicting this, but in my past experience, I felt like that quick spool manifold that I had from Full Race. Every time I tried to lean on that thing past 750 or so, it seemed like it was diminishing returns. I don't know. There's some guys that are kind of disproving that right now, and who knows? Maybe it had to do with my setup, or maybe it's the fact that I was twin scroll. I don't know. But so I wanted to go bigger, but I know I've experienced 1.5 runners on that same setup, and it's significantly laggier. So I found some material that was halfway in between, and that was this Hypertune stuff. Ends up being like the equivalent to like 1.3/8 or something. Just right in the middle. And I'm running the Garrett G40 1150, which is a relatively large turbo. I think it's a 71 mil, and it's a 1.0 T4 divided housing. And this thing, I don't know if you saw the video. I did a video of the thing. It's got full boost by 4,500 RPM, and that's on the big boost. I guess it really hits 36 pounds by like 48 or something. It's got 300 foot pounds of torque by 4,000 RPM, I think, or 4,100. Like it's and the thing is like that doesn't even tell half the story. Like driving the thing on the track just blows my mind because the turbo is so damn big. I was expecting it to be pretty laggy, so I put nitrous in the car, but I'm like, I haven't used it yet. I haven't even tested it. I haven't even turned it on yet. Like I pulled the bottle out because it's just dead weight right now. I put it on there thinking I was going to need it to spool the thing coming off a corner, but I haven't. The thing comes up so quick. It's amazing. Anything above $4,000, you can just mat it and it's there amazingly quick. It's wild. It's
Turbo
really, really wild.
insane.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like I said, it's not a huge motor. Mathematically with a small bore, it's only a 2.13, and it's a 10.5 to 1. Actually, probably a little bit less than that. It's probably more like 10.0 or something with the thicker head gasket because I did all my measurements and specking everything out on an 8 gasket, so there's a bit lost there. But yeah, it's impressive. What else? I've got a pieced together dry sump setup that's an ARE pan. It's a 4-stage. I got 3 stages of scavenging and just a pressure stage. I've got Hypertune billet valve cover with a pair of dash 12 vents off of it that I put through a check valve and dump back into the dry sump tank so that it can make vacuum if it ever gets there, but under boost it really doesn't. It just kind of flattens out. What else? Center Force is one of my friends. They're up in Prescott. They're local to me as well. They sponsor me on clutch. I'm using their Diad clutches. Actually, it's pretty damn amazing. Like it drives surprisingly well for an unsprung centered iron clutch. Like surprisingly well. I don't, it's not a street car, so I don't really use it. It's also I've got an X shift sequential in it that's air shifted, it's paddle shifted. So I really only use the clutch to pull it in a trailer or get out on the grid. After that, it's clutchless. What else is interesting in the car? Berkline subframes, front and rear. WiseFab, their full kinematic kit. They hooked me up with that like in 2016. It's a pretty big change on the car. Luckily, I didn't have any troubles. There's a couple guys that had troubles with the first generation lower arms in the front. They were a little too thin. I think a couple of people broke them, but I didn't have any trouble with them. And they have an updated one now that's a lot beefier. I don't know what else. What else do I have? I think.
What's going on with the wheels and tires? Because those are pretty cool.
So the wheels and tires are Woosh Automotive. This guy Shylon Woo's was a Chinese guy that was here on a school visa, and he did some time attack stuff with his turbo V6 Mustang. And he's a super cool guy. He did Pikes Peak in that car. Like he's done a lot of cool stuff. And he went back home and made a wheel company. And he does one-off. You call out everything back, the bore, the bolt pattern, offset, width, all of it, and it just makes one-off wheels, man. They're kick-ass. He got them done quick. They're not expensive, and they're billet. They're not cast junk. I've got 12 and a half, 18 on a plus 15, I believe. The whole way around running Yokohama 8005 320 650 slicks, and then we got currently I have stop deck brakes on the thing, and it's kind of funny. They sponsored the car like in 2019 or something, maybe 2020, and obviously the car wasn't done yet and just got done. Whenever they sponsored me, they give me like, listen, I'm going to give you the the 4-piston kit for the front because it's going to be lighter, and I think you're going to have enough aero and light enough car that it'll be enough. I'm like, okay, and I doubt it will, but okay. So we get the thing, and it's just not enough. I'm putting. I use metric units. I use everything metric in my car. It's like 95 bar, so you can imagine multiply that by 14 and a half or so of brake fluid pressure, and I can't lock the fronts up. So it's kind of a battle. So I'm actively looking to put something bigger and better on the car right now because it's getting to be a problem. As I'm adding power, like figuring the car out and getting faster, and getting on the brakes. Like our local podium club has a pretty decent straightaway. I think I'm still doing like 165 miles an hour on the straight, and I got to brake so early to get that thing to slow down. It's kind of annoying.
That sounds very scary.
Yeah, I mean, I've had, believe me, there's been some pretty funny, scary moments in that car, but it's not scary once you've realized what it is. You just have to brake earlier and ride it out. It's something that people that drive on track, you get used to. You figure out how to work around what tools you're given. You drive a car to its limits. Not, I mean, as you get more experience, you drive the car to its limits. The less experienced you are, or less, let's say, talented you are, the more you're driving around your own skills, and a lot of guys try to. I mean, I'm that too. I'm a mediocre driver. I'm not a top tier driver, but I'm okay. I've got a lot of seat time, but I've figured out how to make a decent hammer. So I make a good hammer that I can swing okay.
Well, Tony, we know that aero is huge in time attack, and your car certainly has plenty of that. A huge front splitter, a big rear spoiler, really cool side skirts. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
But yeah, so all that stuff is everything besides the wing is new for this build for this time around, and I had all kinds of stuff planned out and worked out, and I was going to do, and then I stumbled across Justin at Lag MSC, who does kind of one-off carbon stuff, and he literally came through and just made all that stuff one-off for me. I mean, the splitter and the diffuser is not really one-off. That stuff you can. The size of the splitter is one off, but he offers you can buy that splitter, you can buy that diffuser straight off the shelf for him. He makes that stuff for anybody. I've got several customer cars on him. So it's super nice. But the side pods and the barge boards are all one off things he made for me. And like I may still get a little more aggressive. Like I don't have any diffusers in the splitter yet because it's so big. It's kind of it needs the strength of it being one piece. I got to get creative on how I'm going to incorporate some diffusers into it, and I may even go back to my old. If you remember when the car was blue, I had those little winglets on the splitter. I may end up going back to that at some point if I don't get enough front downforce out of it. But so far, right now, like I'm 4 events in, I think, and every event we figure something else out, make the car a little bit better. So it's really exciting. It's so much fun right now. The car's just working, and just figure out it's so much easier to fix little problems as you stumble across them than to just build something from scratch. Like that was the painful thing about the process of building the car was just having to rely on other people. Like I'm not a fab guy. I can stick pieces of metal together, but like I've been in business doing this for a living with my shop, and anything I'd weld together and put together, I couldn't justify charging somebody a professional rate to do it. Like, yeah, I can make it work, but it's not going to be pretty. So I have a fab guy in the shop that I employ and I pay that is extremely talented at that stuff, and he can make all of it look, amazing. You have to rely on other people, and along the way, there's been a lot of hands involved in the fab part of it. Like I had this vision, I wanted this and this done, and then you got to find somebody to do it, and then deal with their time frame. All that stuff just compounded. And then you're running a business, you get busy. Sometimes you don't have extra money to throw at it. It's just it took a long time. It's painful. It's painful long time. Like 9 years to do an update. Oh, I didn't even mention we did a 3-inch top chop while we're at it too. I don't know if you noticed that.
I had thought that something about the window structure was a little bit different.
It looks a little weird. Yeah, it's got a 3-inch top chop. Which was an adventure. That was probably one of the biggest adventures because when I first kind of took it on myself, and I kind of stuck it together for the most part. Like basically, I stripped the car down, welded it to a roll around cart, and welded bracing all through the inside so the whole thing didn't just tin can. When I started cutting stuff apart, and then I measured the front, rear, and sides to the floor, and I just started cutting. I basically turned the roof into 6 pieces, each pillar being a piece. and started cutting the pillar until that middle section was 3 inches down, which turns out to be a lot more because you're just going diagonally across, like your A and C pillars are going diagonally across. So like I think the A pillars are 6 inches shorter or something. To drop 3 inches on a roof, it's weird.
That is weird. Wow. That
Yeah, and then piecing it all together was just strange. Like it made the rear window like stand up more. It's a little less, laid down as it was stock because that upper lip, as you're cutting it, your upper lip's getting closer and closer to the rear. So my roof is actually significantly longer and wider than stock, like significantly.
yeah, I guess those are the kind of changes you just don't think about until you're in there doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. And again, I've already covered that. I'm not a fab guy, and I decided to try to take this shit on, and then I got it kind of half-ass glued together, and I had to hand it off to a professional to make that shit look semi-reasonable.
This episode of the MitsuTimes podcast is brought to you by Evo Spec Performance. Evo Spec Performance specializes in complete plug-and-play, drop-in ready fuel systems that support mild to wild setups ranging from 500 horsepower all the way to 1200 plus horsepower. They carry complete DSM and Evo titanium hardware kits. Compared to factory hardware, Evo Spec's titanium kits are 50% lighter, stronger, as well as rust and corrosion resistant. They offer custom billet machine parts that focus on increasing performance, efficiency, weight reduction, and give that unique custom finished look that you expect. Find out more about their products and services at evospecperformance.com. Tony, earlier did we talk about the suspension that you're running? Because I'm sure it must be very complicated.
Um, well, I mean, it's really not. It's not. Fortunato's been sponsoring me for many years. I think that I picked them up as a sponsor in like 2015 or so. So I ran the car for a few years on them. Then I'm still on their shocks. They're top level three-way shocks. So it's got Penske canisters that has high speed, low speed compression, and then you have rebound on the shock body itself with remote canisters. So yeah, they're pretty good. I've been playing around with the valving on them and the spring rates lately because I think I'm getting to have to step up the spring rates heavily from where I used to be. Even though the car's lighter, it's just faster and more stable. So basically, you have to add spring rate to take advantage of that sometimes. So yeah, it's nothing particularly complicated. It's not the cheapest thing out there, but they're definitely not they're like if I had the budget, I'd have a set of Olean's TTXs on there. But you're talking about $12,000 shocks. Then that's what we have on one of our customer cars. And honestly, it's such a completely different sensation driving that car. But right, there's still a budget. There's a lot of expensive parts in the car because I didn't race for 9 years, so I was able to scrounge up some money for some cool parts. Honestly, all of it, like they all hooked me up to some degree. Like I didn't pay full price for the extra because they helped me out some because they knew it was going to go and the car is going to get attention. And I've been very fortunate in that. I've done a lot with not a lot over the years. And as the car gets better and better, you start focusing on making sure you have the best product on the car and less so much of what you got for free. And that all of a sudden makes it a lot more of an expensive project.
Yes. Well, so I'm so interested in this suspension. So is it something that is easily adjustable there at the track to dial in exactly, from track to track?
Yes. Well, yeah. So yeah, you have three knobs to twist on the shock. You can adjust your compression and rebound separately, and then you have what's called high speed compression, and that's basically like a blow off valve. Like if you hit a curb really hard, it absorbs that better than a two-way shock because it's got a secondary. It's almost like having a triple bypass shock on an off road car. You have one level of damping, and then you get past another point, you have a different level of damping. It's kind of like that, only it's more based on the velocity of the wheel motion. So if you have a really fast velocity of wheel motion, it's not going to use the main low speed damping. It's going to use the high speed damping. It's like a blow off valve sort of, and you can adjust that separately of the main damping. So yeah, so yeah, I can adjust ride height. I can adjust compression, rebound, high speed compression, and then I can adjust camber and caster and toe with the suspension arms, but that's not part of the shock. That's the Weissfab kinematics kit. I have their knuckles and arms, and it's kind of it puts another level of adjustability into the car, like almost too much. You can get lost in that stuff really easily.
So Tony, we think about this four door sports car that was kind of bred on the rally roads. What is the most challenging aspect of taking an Evo and making a time attack car out of
You know, I don't think anything's challenging about it in general. It's like the car is extremely good dead stock. What's hard about it is that it's got the potential to go be a lot faster, and then you gotta make everything else work around it. Like you can make enough horsepower to outrun the stock brakes and the stock suspension. If you put enough tire under it, you can definitely outrun the stock suspension. All of it's just it's a balance of improvements. You can't just throw a bunch of power at it and go think you're going to win something. You might do better. You might be faster because of on a certain track that has a lot of straightaways. If you don't have enough brake to slow down for the corners, you're not going to be able to take the corner. It's compound items. Everything's got to work together. And the hardest part about it is just having an equal level of parts for all the things you're asking for it to do. You can't go out and put a huge set of slicks on this thing in a wide body kit and try to do it on stock shocks. It's just not going to have enough damping, not enough control for it. You can't expect to take a really fast turn without some sort of arrow. This is all just it adds up. And to be fair, like up until probably the last 4 or 5 years, my driving was very instinctual and it still kind of is. No matter what the car did, I always blamed myself. Like I was like, I just need to figure out how to drive around it, which probably helps it to develop as a driver. The guys that are really fast on their own, that have driven a lot of different cars and they're just fast in anything, they pick the car apart. They don't pick themselves apart. So but you got to get to that point where you're a good enough driver to say and have that confidence and skill set that you can jump into someone else's car and be faster than them. Now, okay, so you have some skills, you have some talent, and then you can get into a random car and say, okay, this does this really well, this does that really poorly. Like, let's fix these things and make the car faster. But at the end of the day, that makes it faster for you. And every driver's talent is different. Like at a pro level, it's a different conversation. Like you can't talk about a Max Verstappen or Angelelli or somebody that's a proper professional. Even those guys have their own style. You see Max struggling right now, but he was dominating last year. It's the cars changed. The cars have changed, and how they drive them changed, and it doesn't fit him anymore. So it's still like that. But I think the lower the skill level, the more it's like that. I think just because you don't have the propensity to learn around things as much when you're just figuring out how to drive in the first place on track. At least that's how I look at it anyway. Yeah, that's how I look at it anyway. Like I've always been like moderately fast, like but not like top level because I can jump in anything and have a good time and go reasonably fast. My kid, I've had him in go karts and stuff early on, and he's taken to it like a fish to water. He's really good, and he notices the car way more than I do. Like comes off track and he says okay, what he wants to change, what needs to be fixed in the car, what it doesn't do well, and that's cool. And I'm getting to that point too after decades and decades of track driving, of looking at the mirror every day instead of at the car. Honestly, that's one of the things I love about time attack is at the end of the day, you're not racing someone to the finish line, you're racing the clock. And at the end of the day, no matter who you are, there's always somebody with more money, more talent, and a better piece of equipment. No matter what, there's always going to be somebody there. Like I don't. The only time I leave mad from a track is if I didn't do better than the last time I was there. That's the only time I leave mad from a track. And other than that, like, how do you go do something as a hobby for fun and be pissed off about it? Like, stop doing that. Do something else. Go knit. Go fucking, I don't know, go hunting. go underwater basket weaving. Like it's stupid. Like there's people there's people in this thing. So I'm involved with Global Time Attack too. I do all their rules. Been involved with them since day one in 2011, and the level of, for lack of a better word, fuckery, I don't know if you can beep that out or whatever, that people will put into winning a plastic trophy just blows my mind. Like you're gonna try to cheat. You're gonna burn light cash on fire to cheat to win a plastic trophy that probably cost $15. Like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, I don't know. I mean, the goal is you're racing. Your goal is to win. I get that, and that's always your goal. We all want to do it, but you can't just be pissed off because you didn't. You got to look at improvements. You focus on yourself, and you can improve yourself. You can improve your equipment and keep getting better and better and better. And next thing you know, you're gonna look around and you're at the top of the heap. Yeah, I mean, if you're only looking at the top of the mountain, how are you going to get there?
And that's one of the best parts about motorsports in general, right? I mean, there's always room for improvement, no matter what.
Yeah, Yeah, that's definitely true. I just think, well, the thing about it with time attack is that you don't have to go bang fenders. You don't have to like. I mean, you're going to take extra risks if you're really trying to push. Like you're close. Like if you're like I have one particular event sticks out to me was at NOLA in like 2016 or something. Um, Rick McPherson was there, and he was like a half second up on me. And man, I went out there and I tried for 3 laps, pushed as hard as I could. I had so many moments, and I just couldn't get him. I had tried so damn hard, and I just remembered like having that carrot dangling in front of you when it's that close, when it's attainable. If the guy's 3 seconds ahead of you, like the likelihood of you getting there is slim to none. But if it's like tenths, 2, 3, 4 tenths, I think I got it down to like 2 tenths or something. But it was that's thrilling and exciting. That's pretty awesome.
Sure. So, Tony, you said that you're 4 events in with this new setup, but what what has been your favorite track? Maybe even not even on the current setup, the favorite track that you've been on with the Evo whatsoever.
So the tracks I've driven with the Evo, I've got like 3 favorites.
Okay.
3 big time. Like it's kind of weird because I like a lot of them, but like Road Atlanta is a simple but scary track that I love. 12 turns, but holy hell, it is insane. Like it's such an awesome, insane track. I love that track. A tie for second, probably Sonoma and Laguna Seca. Probably Sonoma for second and Laguna Seca third. Both of those tracks are pretty awesome. They're awesome for different ways, different reasons. Like Laguna Seca is one of those weird tracks. I've never like. It's not often you go to a track and spend 3 days there, and literally improve every session. Like that never happens, and that happened to me at Laguna Seca. I was there for NASA Nationals in 2015, and we did practice day and 2 full competition days. And I never do practice days because a car at my level, I never know if I want to make the next session, much less the next day. When you're when you're at that, like I'm trying to squeeze a ton of power out of the damn thing. It's kind of, like back then I was doing like 750 wheel, but it doesn't sound like a whole lot. But 90% of the people that make that kind of power aren't doing it for a road race. They're doing it for a quick highway rip, or they're doing quarter mile or something.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
different. It's different when you're doing it for minutes at a time. So third place, yeah, that's Laguna Seca. It's one of those inviting tracks that you can like. It's not like everybody thinks about the corkscrew like being this big scary thing. The corkscrew is literally almost the slowest corner on the track. I think it is the slowest corner on the track. It's not scary. Everybody's seen it. You know exactly what's down there. It's not, it's a blind pressing corner, but everybody know it's there. It's there. You know it. Like everybody's seen it in video games on TV. You know it. You go to Sonoma that isn't quite as obvious and televised, and cresting into 3 and 3, 4, 5 through there is pretty wild. It's a pretty awesome track. But then at the end of the day, the home of American Time Attack, Button Willow, Clockwise 13 is shitty, bumpy willow, middle of nowhere to just trash. But that track is one of those tracks that is so convoluted and complex that nobody just shows up there and owns it. It's just one of those things you got to keep going there and to figure out new things. It's a wild track for yeah. It's hard to explain it. Like if you set up a car to be good there, it's probably not going to be good anywhere else. It's got its own flavor of everything. It's a really wild track. It's an interesting track, and that was the beginning. I don't know if you know that, but that's the beginning of American Time Attack. Was there.
Yeah. I remember someone else saying that on one of these episodes.
So yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of fun tracks, but those 4 I think are top dogs for me.
Okay. So Tony, I think one of my favorite aspects about Time Attack is it's just you versus you versus the track kind of thing. And I think to some people that sounds easier, but in a lot of aspects it's more difficult because you can kind of get in your head out there. You make one mistake and then compound, and you just mess up your whole time. And it's not like you're out there for multiple, 10, 20 laps at a time kind of deal. So
Yeah, exactly.
how do you mentally prepare before the hot lap itself, knowing that you only have a few laps to put down your best time?
Um, it's gonna sound really weird, but like I'm not a thinking driver. I literally tell people like I enjoy driving because that's literally the only time in my existence that I get to turn my brain off And I honestly, there's oftentimes I'll come in, do a full session. I don't even know. I don't even know what the hell happened. I was just out there and I did a lap, and I'll remember like one or two little moments, but otherwise I'm just zoned out and driving. It's weird. Like I don't prepare to this day, and I've done, God, I don't even know, hundreds and hundreds of track days. To this day, I sit on grid for the first session of the first day, and I've got butterflies. And I'm just like, you know, staring off in the sunset. I got butterflies in my stomach, and the moment I put the visor down, I put it in gear and start rolling. It's over. My brain turns off, and it's go time. It's super weird. That's probably why it's taken me so long to progress as a driver, because I don't analyze everything. Like I don't use braking markers. I don't ever do that. I look at the corner, I look at the stopping point, and I'm just like, I just have an instinctual point that I hit the brakes now. It's super weird. It's not the way you're supposed to do it at all. I shuffle steer. I don't keep my hands in the same spot. I do all the wrong things.
Does that make you rely on data loggers more than an average driver, you think?
Um, Probably, but like, um, I've never been really good at using the track data. I've always, I'm a tuner. I tune cars for a living, and I look at the car stuff. I look at, hey, what did the engine do? What was what did the ABS do? What did everything do? Like I look at all that stuff, and then actually my son comes in and is like, look at this, you're doing this wrong. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. That's how it's been this past few races. Like I get my son. My son's really getting good at looking at track data and kind of pointing out specific things. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've finally gotten to the point where I've added the gain loss thing on the dash, so I am starting to use more of the logical things. The gain loss thing was kind of a game changer. I started using it. We did a couple seasons in Spec Miata with me and a friend of mine bought a car together just so we could have seat time since I was out of a car for so long, and we put an aim solo in that thing. And it's got a gain loss thing. It's got green lights and red lights, let you know if you're going faster than or slower than your previous lap or your best lap. And that's actually been a kind of a game changer a bit because you don't want to focus on it, but you'll get through a corner and you'll notice in the corner of your eyes like that green popped up a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, so okay, that line worked better than previous. That kind of stuff has been kind of an improvement for me. So I'm starting to get more and more doing the right things, but I historically am terrible at that stuff. I just drive and when I come in and we look at one of the big things is mile an hour at the end of each straight that tells you how good you were on coming onto it, and that's kind of an easy thing to judge. So that's one of the things I did even back then pretty often. I would look at peak miles an hour, like what speed did I get on the brakes. If I had more speed at the end of that straight, I knew I got onto that straight better because I'm not changing the power of the car on the track. So that's one of the little things that I guess looking back at that we always did.
Well, Tony, you talk about the 71 millimeter turbo and how much power it has, and I just imagine that there's one or two maybe sketchy moments where you're bordering out of control that maybe stick out in your mind. Would you like to share one of those with us?
Um, well, I haven't had any like big scary moments in this so far this year, but probably the biggest one I had. I learned a valuable lesson about kinematics, let's say, or vehicle dynamics. It was button willow in like, I don't know, probably 2010 or 12 or something, a long, long time ago. I was had struggled with my car. It was just really, really twitchy in transition. Like once you got it into a corner, it was happy. But when you're transitioning from one side to the other, it would just want to spin on you like crazy. It was just unmanageable. And I couldn't figure out why. Eventually figured it out, but I was going into bus stop at Buttonwillow, truck stop technically, the entry of it. And so it's a really fast right-hander transition into a fast left-hander. You don't really even lift for it. You lift for the turn in for the right, and then you immediately have to transition to the left. Well, that transition just put me in an instant spin. And Buttonwillow's got like the sand that might as well be talcum powder. Like if you go sideways into that stuff, the likelihood of it packing up on your tires and you're rolling is pretty high. And like it's probably the only time I've ever been in my car thinking that yeah, this is it. The car's going in the dumpster from here. Like I let go of the steering wheel. I grabbed my harnesses. I both feet in, and I just waited for waited for the car to come to a stop. And I was sure I was going to put that thing in the dumpster, just cut it, throw it away because it was going to be wadded up, but it didn't. Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. Like that car felt like you had like big, like one of those gap cams, but it weighed like 400 pounds hanging up and behind the car. That's what it felt like. It was the strangest thing. It ended up being the front lower control arms, inboard bolts. Like they were tight, but they weren't tight enough to. I had at that. I think I had just done some urethane bushings up there, which is stupid. Don't ever do that. But it was tight, but those pins on the inside that that ties up against the little those barrels in there. It wasn't quite up against the barrels, and basically the front lower control arms were dancing back and forth and actively changing camber and technically tow with it. So yeah, it's pretty dumb.
Yeah, that sounds like it's on the edge of a big mistake.
Yeah, that was probably the like I said, I like there's a lot of scary tracks I've gotten to drive. Like I learned that at Phoenix International, just walls everywhere. It's a little mini oval. We did like 2/3 of the oval, and it was a 1 mile oval, so it wasn't very big. As the whole track was like 1.4 miles or something. But there's walls everywhere. Like there was no runoff at any corner. You screw one corner up, you're like turn one technically had runoff, but the thing was everybody lost it there would hit the inside wall, not the outside wall, to get into a tank slapper as they transition off the apron on the oval. So yeah, that's where I learned, and I honestly think that's probably kept me from progressing faster because you have to respect the track. You can't be go crash a car every damn event. And then like the guys in like California SoCal guys, they go to Willow Springs, Button Willow. There's nothing to hit. Oopsie, I went off. Go drive it off in the dirt. Get back on. Try again. You know, they get to take bigger chances than I did when I first started learning how to drive.
Well, Tony, most of us know that time attack is all about fractions of a second. In your vast experience over all these years, what have you discovered has been the biggest breakthrough that shaved off time off your laps that maybe is one part or one technique or something along those lines?
Honestly, I don't know if there's any one thing like that. You're talking about driver skill wise, like technique wise. The thing that's going to shave off time on anybody is just seat time. The more time you spend in the car, the more you figure things out and you start learning and you start understanding. And that's the biggest thing. Just drive more. It doesn't even have to be the same car. It's just understanding what happens when you do certain things. Sometimes you want the car to unsettle in mid corner, or you might get a little bit of a nudge with a little left foot brake or something to get the car to rotate. Because you went in a little too hot and you're trying to make the damn corner anyway. Like this that kind of stuff. You have to figure out for yourself. There's nobody can teach you that. Like they can talk about it, but until you do it, you have to do it yourself. It doesn't mean anything. It's just something else someone told you to do. But yeah, the seat time is. I don't think there's anything that can be a bigger benefit to any driver than seat time.
I've asked that question 100 times, and the answer has been the same every time. So I think that really hits home that seat time is crucial to these type of setups.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes. Another part of that is actually probably a bigger part of that is ego. People that come in just cockstrong and think they're God's gift. Like men generally. We're men. We're all the best at sex and driving, right? Sure, we are. None of us. Meanwhile, none of us are professionals at either. Oddly enough, but yeah, the ego. The people that come in with a bunch of ego, then always trying to blame the hardware. Those are the guys that are never going to get anywhere. Like they're too convinced that they're the best, and if the car's not doing what it wants it to do, then the car's a problem. And 8 times out of 10, it's not the car.
I think that's very fair. That's yeah. That summarizes it perfect. Well, Tony, this definitely seems like one of those builds where no expense was spared. But I want to ask you this anyways. If money wasn't an issue, what does your dream setup look like for this Evo?
What I would change? So I had this idea. Like it would what I wanted to do is I wanted to do a transaxle in the back, make the motor longitudinal, but keep it all-wheel drive. So use something like a GTR style oil pan with a diff built into it, and four wheel drive transaxle in the back, something like a GTR, but not like I wanted a mechanical sequential. I think that's the most effective use of power, and they're not as heavy as any of the DCTs or autos. But yeah, I kind of like I had my head wrapped around that for a while, but it was just like the money involved. I found a gearbox that I wanted to use. It was going to be like 30 grand. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to have that into my transmission and my motor and my electronics package. So like I just could never do it. But I mean, realistically, there's really high end suspension stuff. There's really high end brake stuff. There's always something that's out there. I mean, I've got some really nice stuff in my car that I'm very proud to have gotten to get. Makes the car a quality car. You know, like I've got good electronics. I got PDMs in the car. I've got a good proper display with some good logging. I've got a great ECU. I've got an Mtron ECU that lets me get creative. If I don't like how something's working, I can literally make my own table to fix it. You know, like there's some cool stuff. There's some really cool stuff in the car. And, you know, I tune for a living, so I get to exercise my brain and come up with solutions for stuff that I'll end up stumbling across a need for that in my 9 to 5. So it's kind of like it's almost like I get to go cheese, have fun driving, and do that thing I love to do. But at the same time, I'm learning every step of the way. I'm learning how to drive better every event. I'm learning how to make the car better every event. So that's the most fun thing. Like that's the cool thing about the industry in general, like this whole performance industry. Like you're always learning something. You're no matter what. Like yeah, even when you're doing something you've done 50 times, if you keep your eyes open, you pay attention, you're gonna notice there's something you could do better, or something you could do differently, or a new component that kind of changes the game a little bit. You know, that stuff's just always ever evolving, and it's kind of neat.
Sure, definitely one of my favorite aspects of motorsports in general. And Tony, I don't know if are you familiar with Simon Norris from England? He's had a couple builds
I know.
where a
I'm using
longitudinal.
Yep. I'm using his front cover on my dry sump setup.
I think his kind of inventions, if you will, his monster machines, a conglomeration of the GTR parts and the Evo parts, are just so cool, so interesting.
Yep, yeah. No, he's done some really cool stuff. That and that little that 2-door car was pretty cool back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he's done some really cool stuff, and he sells some good parts too. Like we've used his dry sump setup in a couple of customer cars, and yeah, it makes some nice stuff.
Yep. So Tony, I always ask time attack guys this question because to me it kind of seems like a natural progression. But then the more I talk to time attack guys, I learn that it's not. But I'll ask you anyways. Do you ever see yourself branching from time attack into a wheel to wheel racing series, or do you want to keep the Evo where it is, and that's where it's competitive, and that's what makes the most sense for you?
Well, the Evo, I don't think I'd ever want to wheel that thing. There's just like expensive one-off parts. Like if I was going to do wheel to wheel, I'd buy a car that can just replace easily. Like, and that's what like Spec Miata was, a wheel to wheel series, and I had a blast doing it. It's a lot of fun. Um, and the thing is, like, man, if you want to get into wheel to wheel, most regions have a shitload of those cars. Like we have most of our races have something anywhere from 19 to 25 cars. Like you're racing with people, like that's cool. And I had a blast doing it. It's getting to the point where it's starting to burn budget up on the Evo. I like the car scaring me a bit. That's what I like about the whole time attack thing in a fast car. I mean, it's kind of a double edged sword. It's like when I started the UMS Tuning Time Attack series, when I got involved with that whole thing. I ran in it, but I always try to put myself in the highest class, so nobody's questioning if I'm massaging the rules for my own benefit. I'm running the unlimited class. I'm not doing anything to try to make this be a series for me. I just want to race. At being involved with these things, I get to do it. Same with GTA. Like I went straight to unlimited because I'm involved with the rules. Like I'm not gonna. I kind of had this strong feeling about people racing in a series where they can manipulate the series for their own benefit. Like I would never do that, but B, I know a lot of people are that self-servient that would. You know what I mean? So that's why I've always like put myself in that top echelon just to filter that crap away from me. Like I want to go race, and I also want to see other people race. And I want to help and be involved in that. That's just part of the game. But I don't want to be looked at like questioning what I'm doing because I'm helping myself win. Like I don't care. That's not what this is about. It's about me making a fun series, and I got to go drive. you know. So yeah, like Spec Miata, do Spec Miata. Yes, I have done it. We still have a car. Like my buddy that we shared the car with, he crashed it one weekend. I had to leave to support a drag customer, that Miata guy. So I raced on Saturday and he raced on Sunday, and he got involved in we had a guy like bump him and kind of ran him into another car that spun, or no, he spun the car. He spun the car in front of him, and he just didn't have anywhere to go. He hit the car head on, and we damaged the car, and it's been sitting there. And then his wife was pregnant with twins, and I was trying to get the Evo done, so we just like let it sit there. It's been sitting there for 2 years, I think. We got to pull the core support out, put a radiator in it, and I already got a new hood and bumper for it. Like, it's just about ready to race again. It's just neither one of us have had the time to do anything about it.
So Tony, you've been around Time Attack since its conception, and I talked to a lot of autocross Evo guys, and I'm like, hey, why don't you go out and try some grid life events, or try to get into some Time Attack local, regional events, and they always say, well, I don't know how. I don't know if I would be good at it. I don't know, the rule how to get out there and do it. So if I was coming to you looking for advice to get started in Time Attack, to branch my Evo from whatever I'm doing now into Time Attack, what advice would you give me?
Just go out and do it. It's the rules are in Time Attack are generally really simple. Now, some of them may seem silly from a more power to weight ratio type of series, like if you're coming from NASA or SCCA or Pro Auto or one of these groups that run, but it's a different type of feel. Like it's more focused on visually being able to separate the cars. Like you want to be able to walk up to a car and say, "Oh yeah, that's got to be an enthusiast car. That's got to be a street car." Like in GTA, we have a lot of class separation like that to make it obvious. But it's easy to do. It's extremely easy. The rules are really loose. Like we're pretty hard on safety stuff, but like it's not hard to get in there. We all have sites. We all have email groups. You just email in, and there's just Facebook groups. You can ask them. Just go out and do it. And I will say, the people that are autocrossing, 8 times out of 10, somebody that's good at autocrossing will pick up road racing very quickly and be great at it because they're already used to the limit of the car. The other way around doesn't always come true. Like there's not a lot of road race guys that are exceptional at autocross if they went to try it after they started road racing. So 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 yeah, I wouldn't be scared of it at all. I think people are worried about its financials. Like autocross guys they're cheap. Like their events cost $50 or $75 or something. Whereas every Time Attack has cost notably more than that, and typically a full weekend event. So that's probably one of the reasons that keeps some eyes up. I've converted a few people over the years. I mean, it's a different level of excitement. It's kind of like the difference between drag racing and a hill climb. You want that adrenaline rush for 32 seconds at a time. You want to do it for 10 minutes at a time or 5 minutes at a time. Different level of holy shit.
Fair. Yeah, I guess it's one of those where if the autocross thrill isn't satisfying your need, then that's Time Attack is the next obvious step.
Yeah. I mean, I did autocross when I couldn't afford to go road racing, go on a road course. Like I could go do that on a Saturday afternoon and spend $40 or whatever it was, and go play for the day. And chase cones for half the day and drive for a little bit. But yeah, no, I don't have anything against it. I just it doesn't have the level of fear that excites me. Like that's what excites me, is the fear. Like if you don't have a little bit of that seat and you crack your ass at the end of the session, you didn't try hard enough. Little code brown.
Yep, I can relate to that. Well, Tony, where can people find and follow you on social media to see some more of this beautiful Evo of yours, and to be able to keep up with the other events that you race at?
Well, I mean, I generally post stuff up on, like, I double shared from my Instagram as UMS Tuna, TUNAH is my Instagram, my personal one, and UMS Tuning. I share some of the stuff on there as well on Instagram, and then that gets copied over to Facebook. Just my name at Facebook. I have a TikTok for the shop, but I haven't really used it much. I'm too old for that shit, I guess. I don't know. I haven't really done a whole lot on there yet, but yeah, I usually try to put some videos up, and there's a YouTube page for UMS Tuning that I've been dropping some videos on here and there as I'm getting them. But yeah, I've been trying to get the car together and like really ready for. We're gonna try to do this first. Then we try to do every event for GTA this year. So I've been doing all NASA stuff. We've got Radford, a little track this Saturday, and then we have Indy Motorsports Ranch in Wilcox, Arizona, coming up at beginning of the next month, and then the end of next month we've got Thunder Hill up in NorCal. That's going to be a kind of a far drive, but that track's pretty awesome as well. I've got to drive that. I did the 25 hours there once. Got 2 3 hour stints. That's an amazing track. So I'm really looking forward to that event. And then after that is going to be the Ridge up in I think beginning of August up in Washington State. That's I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to take the car up to NorCal, leave it there, and then fly up and take it up to Washington for that August event. And then after that, we're back here for a couple of events, and then we have GTA finals at Button Willow, and then I'm gonna maybe try to do the Ultimate Track Car Challenge if everything's working in the car and it's getting developed. I'm gonna try to sign up for that, and that's over at Eagles Canyon, I think, in Texas. So yeah, we got plans to do some events this year. Like the cars together, I want to drive it.
Yeah, for sure. It seems to be already doing well. Like you said, just a handful of events.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the first event was like a shakedown event. I had a lot of little troubles that we were fighting through, but it still took a second place at Southwest Speed Festival at Podium Club here in Arizona. And then our next event after that, we went to Chuck Waller. We reset the production car record there, which is pretty cool. Although my buddy with his Miata, Ryan, went out there and reset it again by a couple tenths a couple weeks later. Just pretty wild car as well. Ryan Passy with his Hyper Miata, he calls it. It's got a GM LFX, like a V6 Camaro, supercharged V6 Camaro motor in a Miata, and it's sick. The guy's a phenomenal shoe as well, and the car's fast as hell. But yeah, like the Chuck Waller is constant turning. You don't have a lot of straightaways, so the horsepower doesn't really pay off as much there as it does as a bigger track. Like if we were to go to Coda or something.
Yeah, yeah. So it definitely seems like your car, or maybe all Evos in general, it they work out better with the fast flowing tracks than the kind of tight and technical tracks.
I think maybe that's a factor of the weight more than anything, but because the cars have great dynamics, like they're really confidence inspiring. You can really throw them around, and they're really a lot of fun. But then once you really start leaning on it, you start noticing that it's just the nose weight, all that heavy weight on the nose, just overheats the front tires pretty fast, and it's hard to get them to, you know, repeatedly turn sharp corners, low speed stuff. The low speed grip is generally the problem because you have the propensity to make power and you're coming up on this low speed corner really hot and you're on the brakes, you're already putting heat into the tire. And then you're going to try to make this tight corner, you've already overheated everything. So I think that's probably why, because it's easy to make power with them and they're nose heavy. I think that's where Subaru has a balance benefit because they have a lower center of gravity on the motor and they're longitudinal, so the transmissions, they have a more centralized balance. Like my car at this point is light enough where I'm 10% of the weight of the car. So that's why I sit so far back. Like I'm 14 inches back from the stock seating position, and that actually moved the front to rear weight balance by a percent, which is huge. It's huge.
Well, Tony, at the end of these, I always give people a chance to give a thanks to anybody who's helped get the car where it is or get them where they are personally. Is there anybody that you want to give a thanks or a shout out to?
Oh my God, I got a giant list. Like for the since Thanksgiving, basically my guys, my fab guy Javi at the shop, Brendan, Ulrich, all my guys at the shop have been helping out get the car together for months and months and months. And then my wife putting up with me constantly being gone working on the damn thing. And I've got the sponsors that have helped out with parts along the way, with Fortunato, Optech, rest in peace. Wise Fab, Walker, MP Fab. Garrett's always hooked me up with the great turbos. I think I already said Fortunato. Mtron really giving me good deals on the ECU stuff and making a great product. Like I've had so many people involved. Level Motorsports helped out with the cage. There's a lot of people that got involved. Lag MSC, those guys with the carbon, Justin with the carbon stuff that came through clutch right when I really needed to make stuff happen fast. He just made it happen. It's awesome. I've had just like I've had a lot of people cheering for this car to come back for a long time, and I had a lot of people pushing help and make it happen. It's been pretty awesome. 6 months.
Well, Tony, it's been an honor to have you on here and to get to hear the backstory of your car, the backstory of your history and your career of racing. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on here. I know you're a very busy man, and I definitely can't wait to see what else this Evo has in store.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. Have a great night.
You too, man.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.